that's coming through. I'm going to do my Facebook check here in a second. That's coming through. All right, we got our Facebook check. We're going to pause that. All right, we got our, wish we could pop out our chat here, but we can't, unfortunately. So we've got our Facebook chat. Good. Oh, yep. And last but not least, we're just going to do a quick YouTube check. Last but not least, there that is. YouTube we can pop out. That's kind of nice. We'll pop out our YouTube chat, close that, and now all we have to do is just kind of arrange our windows here. Perfect. Okay. So I've got all of our checks. We've got an ad coming up in Twitch here in a second. I'm going to go really quick into Twitch and make a quick adjustment to the ads in Twitch. I have the ads turned up really a lot, and probably let's see, affiliate, no, monetization ads. All right, how can we turn this down? I know we can. There we go. Ad minutes, 3 minutes per hour. Actually, that's pretty much okay. All right, so we're gonna leave that. We're not gonna mess with that right now. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. All right, so we are going back to our questions here. We got our questions in front of us. If we get anyone watching and answering, let me just check my bit rates. Make sure we're not losing any drops or anything. Okay, great. So I do have a little timer. If I get any viewers, I can do this timer.
You have 5 seconds to answer the question. Comment with your answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
But again, I'm only going to use that if we have people answering the questions. So if you are listening and participating, by all means, say something in chat so that I know that you're here and that you're answering and you want some time, because I may know the answer and I may just take it and go. The other thing I'm going to pull up is my Google, and I also pull up my Chat GPT. Oh, I gotta log back in. Uno momento, por favor. All right, come on, baby. All right, I like to go to my Chat GPT if I ever need help. This is a study session. This is not a test, so as we ask a question and choose an answer, it'll say yes. It'll tell us if we're right, and if we want any clarification, we can get that. Ad breaks ends in about 1.5 minutes on Twitch. So let's take a look at a question here. A home buyer who wants to have more equity in a home and not pay PMI should finance at a lower interest rate, make a larger down payment, make a smaller down payment, take out a larger loan. So if a home buyer who wants to have more equity in a home and pay more PMI, how would they do that? They would make a larger down payment. That's my answer, and that is correct. And you can see down here at the bottom, it will give us explanations as to why the answer that is correct is correct. It says make a larger down payment is correct because a larger down payment will create more equity in the home, decreasing the loan to value ratio. and I'll tell you why the other answers are not correct. I generally only go to this for a question that I don't know, don't understand very well, and need clarification on, or, well, that's it. Things that I need more clarification on. All right, next question. Looks like we're out of the ad break now on Twitch. The community is back. Welcome back. The net income on a parcel of income producing units was $32,000 for the past year. This represented an 8% return on the market value of the property. The property changed so as to cause the owners to want a 10% return on their investment. In view of this increased percentage of return, how much would the property be worth? So a net income on a parcel of income producing units was $32,000. Let me pull up my handy dandy calculator here. I'm going to put this over here so you guys can see this. We can still see the answers. So the net income on a parcel of income producing units was $32,000 for the past year. This represented an 8% return on the market value of the property. So we're going to times that by, how do we get that again, Paul? Take a look. Do I need to divide that by 92? The net income on a parcel of income producing units was $32K for the last year. This represented an 8% return on the market value of the property. So how do I figure out the value of the property? That's not my question. I just want to figure out what the current value, then I just times it by 10%. So 32,000 is the income, and that's 8% of the value. I mean, is that 32,000?
Divided by 8%.
32,000 divided by 8%. Okay, so the value of the property is 400,000. The property changed so as to cause the owners to want a 10% return on there. So do they want a 2% more?
No, because what are you doing? You're doing the income value of those. You're figuring out what the cap rate. So the 8% is the cap rate.
The 8%, yeah, I understand the 8% is the cap rate. That's 32,000. That's 8% of 400. But the property changed so that they want a 10% return.
32,000. 320,000.
Right, but read the rest of the question. The property changed so they now want a 10%. In view of this increased percentage of return, how much would the property be worth? If they, it's going to be 40,000. Oh no.
$320,000.
Oh, because the cap rate goes up, the property value goes down? I don't like, I'm not.
You're looking at it wrong, because you got to think of the cap rate is kind of like the percentage of time it takes to.
So you're saying it's
return.
Oh, it is.
So the higher the percentage, the longer it's going to take to get the return on your investment.
Well, they had a property that was worth 400,000 before.
It's the same property at a different rate. It's going to be a different value.
So the property lost $80,000 because they wanted an additional 2% return on the investment? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, I know that's how the numbers work out.
Yeah, I don't know enough. I'm not.
They're making 32,000, which is a cap rate of 8%. The property changed so as to cause the owners to want a 10% return on their investment. In view of this increased percentage rate of return, how much would the property? So the property is worth $80,000 less because they're getting a 2% higher return. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'm going to move on because it's irritating me. After a developer has sold all of the lots in a subdivision in which deed restrictions had been established limiting the lots to single-family residential use, subsequent action to enforce the restrictions must be initiated by a lot owner looking to a court of equity for an injunction, the county zoning and planning commission, the developer exercising his right as a grantor of a quitclaim deed, the land conservation and development commission. After a developer has sold all the lots in a subdivision in which the deed restrictions have been established, limiting the lots to single-family residential use, subsequent actions to enforce the restrictions must be initiated by lot owner looking to court of equity for an injunction, the county zoning and planning commission, the developer exercising his right as a grantor of a qualified deed. I'm going to go with that one, but we're gonna take a look at this through ChatGPT. The enforcement of deed restrictions, such as those limited lots to single-family residence, typically falls to the homeowners association or a designated entity responsible enforcing the covenants, conditions, restrictions. Once a developer has sold all the lots, they typically transfer control of the HOA to the homeowners. It is then the responsibility of the HOA or a designated entity to enforce the deed restrictions by taking legal action if necessary. Well, we're going to go with this one then. That's it. A lot owner looking to a court of equity for an injunction. So the owners. When should a salesperson consult their broker when preparing a sales contract? When should a salesperson consult their broker when preparing a sales contract? Only after consulting a lawyer, only if given permission, only in emergency situations, whenever they have a question. I think that's pretty simple when they have a question. In a real estate analysis, one should be more interested in chronological age of the improvements, effective age of the improvements, future economic life of the improvements, remaining physical life of the improvements. Had this one before, and I believe it's the future economic life of the improvements. There we go. And if you are watching through Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, please say something in chat just so I know. You don't have to, but if you want to have time to answer the question, you can always put an A, B, C, or D if you don't want to have to obviously type out the entire question. I'm not saying A, B, C, or D because it's kind of hard to remember to do it, but if you do it in chat, I'll understand. Or 1, 2, 3, or 4 is perfectly acceptable as well. But if I know that you're trying to answer and take a guess, I will give you ample time to do that. Involuntary alienation of an estate means aliens are forbidden ownership in fee simple. An estate cannot be transferred without the consent of the owner. No one can be compelled to relinquish title without his or her consent. ownership of estates may be transferred by operation of law. My answer is ownership of estates may be transferred by operation of law. There we go. So involuntary alienation. Alienation means to transfer property. So involuntary would mean that it goes through some operation of law. All right. When a court orders a person to sell property, it issues an attachment, a deficiency judgment, a foreclosure, a writ of execution. When a court orders a person to sell property, what does it issue? Take a look. What do you think? I think it's a writ of execution. And I'm right. Woohoo. The practice of inducing panic selling on the basis of race or other minority group is known as. The practice of inducing panic selling on the basis of race or other minority group is known as acceptable, blockbusting, steering, unethical but legal. What do we think? The practice of inducing panic selling on the basis of race or other minority group is known as what? I believe that to be blockbusting. Yes, blockbusting. You sometimes wonder where some of these terms come from. If anybody knows, feel free to put it in chat as far as where they kind of derive from, why they use that particular term. Trying to bust the blocks of the owners, maybe? All right. An easement appurtenant. An easement appurtenant cannot be terminated, may be terminated by the dominant tenement, may be terminated by the servient tenement, will be terminated if abandoned by the servient tenement. An easement appurtenant. If we know what that is, we know that it can be terminated by the dominant tenement. Okay. In terms of basic physical characteristics, land may properly be described as immobile, indestructible, non-homogeneous, or all of these. Well, I know that it's immobile. I know that it's indestructible. Homogeneous is not necessarily a word that we used learning, but homogeneous means basically not similar. I'm going to go with all of these with about a 90% confidence. Yes, non-homogeneous. They are not. No two pieces of land are alike. Which program does a standard title insurance policy protect against? Which program? Listen to me. Bleh. Which problem does a standard title insurance policy protect against? Does it protect against a prior grantor's lack of legal capacity to convey the title? The government's imposed zoning restrictions? Forgery of documents? Or missing heirs? I believe the answer is missing heirs. Oh, forgery of documents. I could have sworn missing heirs was one of them. Forgery of documents. Okay. Forgery of documents. A standard title insurance policy is designed to protect the owner of a property from potential problems that could arise from the title transfer. Title insurance policies typically covers issues such as forgery documents, liens, title defects and encumbrances. Forgery documents is correct because a title insurance policy will protect against any claims of forgery of documents related to the title transfer. All right. The kind of estate that has the maximum rights in land and is the most freely inheritable and transferable is the kind of estate that has the maximum rights in land and is the most freely inheritable and transferable is estate in remainder, estate in reversion, fee simple estate, or life estate. What kind of estate has the maximum rights? I believe that to be the fee simple estate. I am correct. Senior housing may refuse to rent to families if 50% of the units are occupied by persons over the age of 55, 80% of the units are occupied by persons over the age of 62, all units are occupied by persons over age 55, all units are occupied by persons over age 62. Now there's two numbers here, and I don't remember what they are. I'm going to reach around to Paul to help here. Hey, Paul. Senior housing may refuse to rent to families if, is it 80% of the units are occupied by the persons over 62? I thought it was 55 in the first place.
80% over 55.
Okay. But
So
that I don't.
all units are occupied by persons over age of 55.
All units.
Would qualify.
All units are occupied by persons over the age of 62.
Well,
There's two of them. It's 80% over 55 or all of 62. Because there's two.
well, it doesn't matter if all units at the age of 55 is correct, just as well if all units at the age of 62 are correct.
Right, but there's two qualifications. 80% of 55 and older, or all of 62 and older.
It doesn't make much sense to me, but okay.
Well, some senior communities are 55 and older, and some are 62 and older, right? I mean, obviously. Let's go down and read it. Under federal fair housing law, senior housing developments are exempt from anti-discrimination regulations if a senior housing development occupants are over age 62 or 80% of the units must be occupied by one person over age 55. See? 62 or. You said all over 55. It doesn't have to be all over 55. Okay.
Well, if they
It's not required to be. If it is all over 55, obviously that would qualify, but that's not what they wanted. Okay. All right. Next question.
very shitty question.
It's not a shitty question. You got to know both requirements because now if this said 50% of units are occupied by persons over 55, then that would have been a correct answer, but it wasn't. It's if it said 80% of units, it says 50. You can't. I understand what you're saying. If 80% of over 55 covers it, why wouldn't all units over 55 cover it? But that's not the legal wording that they're looking for. So you got to be careful on that one. Which entity has virtually no laws regulating land use? Federal, state, county, or city? I'm pretty sure that's federal. Yes. Yeah, land use is down to the state, county, and city. Mostly city. Which of the following is not true of special assessment taxes? Which of the following is not true of special assessment taxes? Assessed on a front foot basis. Collected in full upon completion of the improvements. Paid by only those who benefit from the improvements, paid in installments over a period of years. Ooh, I don't think it's assessed on a front foot basis. Oh, collected in full. That's it. All right, collected in full upon completion. Yeah, I should have known because they had two options over periods of time. Special assessment taxes are additional taxes that are imposed on a particular parcel of land or specific area to finance improvements such as road construction, beautification projects, or sewer installation. These taxes are assessed on a front foot basis, meaning that the amount of taxes imposed is based on the length of the property line fronting a public improvement or a government-owned right-of-way. The taxes are paid by only those who can benefit from them, and they are the improvements, and they are typically paid in installments over a period of years. Okay. What is not one of the ways in which an insurer authorizes an agent to represent them? What is not one of the ways in which an insurer authorizes an agent to represent them? Apparent, authorization, express, or implied. I remember this one. I believe it's authorization. And we're going to read this one because I don't really know why it's authorization. I just remember having it or Paul having it. When an insurer authorizes an agent to represent them, they are granting the agent certain powers of authority. There are three distinct types of authority that an insurer may grant to an agent: express, implied, and apparent. Authorization is correct because it is not a type of authority granted by an agent by an insurer. Authorization is a broad term that is used to refer to any type of permission given by one party to another. All right. A property was sold for $200,000, but was appraised for $2,025. If the lender will provide an 85% loan, the loan amount would be. So this is tricky because it's saying, well, so if the property owned for 200, sold for 200, that's all we're looking for. So that's 170,000. There you go. It's great if your property appraised for more, but the loan to value ratio, the loan ratio is how much the loan you're seeking the loan for. The seller has agreed to pay the broker a commission of 4%. Looks like we're going to need our calculator again. An offer of $140,000 is accepted on August 4th. What is the brokerage firm's commitment? The seller has agreed to pay the broker a commission of 4%. An offer of $140,000 is accepted on August 4th. What is the brokerage firm's commission? This should be 5,600. Yeah, that was a simpler one, wasn't it? 4% of 140,000. All right, let's go to the next one here. The owner agrees to pay a commission to the agent if the property is sold by anyone during the listing period under the terms of an exclusive listing, any exclusive listing, exclusive agency, exclusive right to sell, open listing. The owner agrees to pay a commission to the agent if the property is sold by anyone during the listing period. That would be, I believe, an exclusive right to sell. Yeah. The general rule is that a buyer may not withdraw an offer. Before the offer is submitted to the seller, after the seller accepts the offer and the acceptance is communicated to the buyer, after the seller rejects the offer, or after the buyer changes their mind about wanting to purchase the property. So the question is And the answer is after the seller accepts the offer and acceptance is communicated to the buyer. Until it's accepted or communicated to the buyer can withdraw the offer. If brokers conspire to set commission rates, it is a violation of the. If brokers conspire to set commission rates, it is a violation of the Law of Agency, Sherman Antitrust Act, Statute of Frauds, or Statute of Limitations. I believe that is the Sherman Antitrust Act. Yes, it is. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes till we go to commercial on Twitch, so that will give me about a 2 or 3 minute break. An agent secures an exclusive agency listing. They want to advertise the listing on social media, but the seller has asked them to put information in the ad as they think that they will make it think that it will sell faster. In reviewing the information given to the agent by the seller, they find some things that are against fair housing rules. What should the agent do? Well, we got a bunch of answers on this one. Go ahead and post what the seller wants. Post the information, but state in the ad that it violates fair housing. Inform the seller that you are not allowed to post. Advise the seller of the fair housing rules so they are aware. Refuse to post what the seller asks. Cancel the listing. Oh, this is a tricky one. There's a little piece of me that says cancel the listing. And I might be wrong. So the 3 options here, well, 4 options is really these ones here. I'm going to say advise the seller of the fair housing rules. Inform the seller that you're not allowed to post. Refuse to post what the seller asks. I'm going to say, I think it's going to be canceled listing. I'm going to click that because I know how they're real tricky when it comes to certain things, especially when it comes to fair housing rules. Advise the seller of the fair housing rules so they are aware. Okay. Well, I guess that is the better. That was my first inclination, but there are times where they just want you to cancel the listing, refuse the listing, don't take the listing. So that clarifies it for me. Let's go back and read that really quick. Are we going to commercial? Looks like we're going to commercial any second here. Didn't pop up that we're on commercial. Let's go ahead and read this. In this scenario, an agent has secured an exclusive agent listing and wants to advertise the property on social media. However, the seller has provided some information that goes against fair housing rules. Of course, they don't tell you what the information is. That would be interesting. The question asks what the agent should do in this situation. The best answer in this situation is to advise the seller of the fair housing rules so they're aware. As a real estate agent, it is crucial to comply with fair housing rules and ensure all advertising is free from discrimination. By informing the seller about these rules, the agent can help the seller understand why certain information cannot be included in the advertisement and work together to create an ad that complies with the law. And we're going to go, we are on break. I'm going to about 1.5 minutes until break. I'm going to pause it right there and we'll come back in just about another minute or two. So. All right, welcome, welcome. We are back outside of break. We're taking breaks as Twitch requires, because if I don't, then the folks listening on Twitch won't be able to hear me. I've got quite a few users listening in on Twitch. Nobody's posting in chat, which is fine. You don't have to. You're not required to. If you just want to listen in, that's perfectly fine. I am cool with that. But let me refresh this really quick. I am cool. All right. So if you're just listening in, that's great. If you want to answer the questions, put in chat like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to answer the question." Just something to let me know, and then I will kind of slow down and let you all answer questions. If I know that there's people listening in and people who want to interact, I'm very cool with that. Okay. All right. Next question here. We're on a run of 35 questions. I'm going to guess this is probably, we're at around 20 questions so far. I don't know. We have that little progress line at the top, but they don't give you numbers. They do when you take the tests, but they don't when you're doing these study thingies here. And once I get done with these 35, I'll have 300 questions left. This packet I bought was 1,300 questions, and I wish somebody would have told me how long it takes to get through 1,300 questions. We've been at this for a couple of weeks now. Okay. After providing adequate notice, a landlord may enter a property for which of the following reasons? Inspections, repairs, clean, or all of the above? I'm going to say all of the above because we can definitely enter for repairs or inspections. Those are for sure. Cleaning, if there's something to clean. So let's go for that. Yes, we can do all the above. I say we because I am a landlord. Okay. Amortization is the process of converting net income into an indicated in. Let's try this over again. Amortization is the process of converting net income into an indication of value, liquidation of a debt, paying an acceleration clause in a mortgage, or redemption. And I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure it's liquidation of a debt. It is. I'm going to read this just because amortization, I know what it is, I know what the word means, but let's read it. Amortization is a process used to gradually reduce the amount of debt owned by systematically paying principal and interest payments over a set period of time, so that at the end of the period the balance is zero. Liquidation of debt is right because it accurately describes the process of amortization. These payments are made with the intention of paying off the entire amount of debt by the end of the period, thus liquidating the debt. So if you hear someone say, my mortgage is amortized over 30 years, that means at the end of 30 years, the debt will be paid off. A listing broker, next question, a listing broker shows a buyer a rural property. When the buyer asks about getting a water permit, the broker says it should not be an issue, even though the broker is aware that the seller was recently denied a water permit. After closing, the buyer is also denied a water permit. The broker's behavior is considered to be, all right, fidelity to the principal's best interests, fraud, innocent misrepresentation, or puffing. Now, I have had this question in the past, and I remember getting it wrong. So the two answers I can tell you for sure, it is not fidelity to the principal's best interests, and it is not puffing. I think it's fraud because you're intentionally lying. You're saying that, oh, that shouldn't be a problem, but you know that the previous person couldn't get one, previous owner. I think they're going to want me to say innocent misrepresentation. But I'm going to go with fraud because I feel like that's more, I'm probably going to get this one wrong. I feel like that I might. Oh, I didn't. Okay, well, hey. The real estate profession demands a high level of trust between agents and their customers, as well as between agents and other third parties involved in the transactions. Agents are held to a higher standard when it comes to their responsibility to ensure that the customers are given accurate and truthful information. In this case, a listing broker showed a buyer a rural property, and when the buyer asked about getting a water permit, the broker said it should not be an issue, even though the broker was aware that the seller had recently been denied a water permit. So fraud is correct because it involves a deceitful misstatement of a material fact known to be false, done with intent to deceive or with reckless indifference as to its truth, and relied upon by the injured party to their detriment or damage. In this case, the broker was aware of the fact that the seller had been denied a water permit, yet the broker told the buyer that it should not be an issue. This was a deceitful misstatement of material fact done with the intent to deceive the buyer. All right, next question. An owner of a cooperative apartment has. What does an owner of an apartment cooperative have? Do they have a proprietary long-term lease, an ownership interest in one entity that must pay taxes, mortgage interest and principal, and operating expenses, both an ownership interest and a proprietary long-term lease, or community property? I believe that they have an ownership interest and a proprietary long-term lease. Yes, that's right. This is correct because the owner has both an ownership interest in the co-op, which provides exclusive rights to occupy one of the units, and a proprietary long-term lease, which is a document that grants the owner the right to occupy the unit exclusively. This type of ownership provides a personal and financial interest in the property, as the owner is responsible for taxes, mortgage interest and principal, and operating expenses. All right, next question. A broker had an exclusive listing on a house. The listing price was $73,250. The commission was 8% of the selling price. The broker received an offer from a buyer for $71,500, along with a $7,000 deposit. The offer included a termite and dry rot inspection as a contingency. The seller accepted the offer and instructed the broker to deposit the $7,000 into escrow. The broker should deposit $1,280 into escrow and retain $57.20 for the commission. The $7,000 into a federally insured savings account under the broker's name until the transaction is ready to close. The $7,000 into a personal account until the contingency has been met, and then transfer the $7,000 into an escrow account. The $7,000 into an escrow company to which parties have agreed. Well, do we have any more answers? No, we don't. So these are tricky ones. Pretty sure it's going to be this one. It's not $1,280 into escrow retain fit. They would never split up an escrow payment. And what's so funny is there's so much unneeded, unnecessary information into these questions. You have to be careful. They don't put it into an escrow company, they put it into an escrow account. So that's not, and usually the parties don't really get together and decide what company to put it into. We're not going to put it into a personal account. That never happens. So I'm going to go with this answer. Federally insured savings account under the broker's name until the transaction is ready to close. Oh, well, I got it wrong. And with an escrow company to which the parties have agreed. See, this is... The reason why this one threw me off is federally insured but it's they put it into a non-interest bearing account. Accounts that are specific for these types of funds. To an escrow company. So usually they don't put it into an escrow company. Let's read this. Let's see. Brokers have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients and must abide by the law when handling their clients' funds. In this case, the broker had an exclusive listing on a house and received an offer from a buyer with a $7,000 deposit included as a contingency. The seller accepted the offer and instructed the broker to deposit $7,000 into escrow. Therefore, the broker needs to be mindful of their fiduciary duty and the legal requirements when handling their client's funds. Fine. So this is correct because the broker must follow all legal instructions of the principal. The broker must place the funds in escrow, ensure that the funds are secured and protected. The broker must also make sure that the funds are kept separate from the brokerage funds and any other funds. This is to protect the client's funds from any potential fraud or theft. All of that I agree with, but the problem is this doesn't say, it says under the broker's name. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a commingling. It's because the broker does open. So this is where you have to be very, very, very careful with these testing sites. The testing sites, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to tell you the name of this testing site because I don't want to say something negative about them in particular, or at least not have it on record that I've said something negative about them. But these testing sites don't necessarily, it's not necessarily in their best interest for you to pass the test. And why is it not necessarily in their best interest for you to pass the test? Because if you don't pass, you have to take it again, and if you have to take it again, you have to pay for it again. And there's no double dipping. There's no second chances here. If it's $79 to pass to take the test. If you don't pass, you got to pay another $79 to take it again. And you can take it all you want. You can take it 100 times if you want to. So really what is probably disqualifies this answer, you can see 22% people said this one, is that it says broker's name instead of client's name, customer's names, buyer's name. A broker can have one account in which they put more than one escrow into. They can have just an account that's for escrow. And as long as they label it all correctly and it's a non-interest account, federally insured savings account under the brokerage. Okay, so those words, it's a savings account. Fine. So these words are basically saying it's a savings account and it's in the broker's name. If it said a non-interest bearing trust account in the customer's name, that would have been the right answer. But to say an escrow company, that is also deceiving because generally the broker is not going to put the money into an escrow company. They're going to put it into a non-interest bearing escrow trust account. At least that has been my experience in my training. So, I'm not going to argue with the testing company, but like I said, these testing companies like to have two answers that are a little bit the same, kind of throw you off because again, they could get you to take the test twice. They make twice as much money. And they're not run by the state. So it's a independent company that's trying to make money. And I paid $100 for these 1,300 questions plus the 3 tests. So they're going to make $180 from me. But hey, they can make another 80. Why not, right? So this is why I don't like the state partnering with outside companies to do these tests, because if you take a 110 question test and you've got to get 70%, which means you can get 33 questions wrong, and if one or two of those questions are the answers are wrong, meaning you answer correctly but it's messed up, they can say, oh, oops, we're not 100%, but one wrong question could make the difference between fail and pass, and good luck on you trying to prove it to the state or to them. You know, your recourse in these situations are literally nothing. And I've heard of some real estate licensees taking these tests 3, 4, 5, 8 times in a row. So, you know, it's a little tricky and a little deceitful in my mind. So, which of the following is an encumbrance but not a lien? Which of the following is an encumbrance but not a lien? A deed restriction, a mortgage, property taxes, or trust deed? I believe, and I'm not 100% on this, but I'm going to go with property taxes. A deed restriction. Let's take a look. Encumbrances are any restrictions or limitations on a property which affects its value or use. Liens are a type of encumbrance which make a property security for a debt and can include mortgages, trust deeds, mechanic liens, attachments, judgments, and property taxes. So you see how it just said property taxes is an encumbrance but not a lien. Which of the following is an encumbrance not a lien? Deed restrictions. And what does deed restrictions include? Property taxes. So is property taxes correct? Yes. That's where they get you. Technically, property taxes is correct, but that's not the answer that they wanted. Now, why do they say property taxes is incorrect? Because it is taxes that are levied on a property by a government or a local authority. If the taxes are paid, a lien is not placed on the property. So there you go. Again, they try to trick you with the answers. You got to really read them and review them. Fortunately, this is just study. And that's the purpose of studying, is to perfect your knowledge. And I know my knowledge is not perfect. The amount of money that would be paid by a buyer to a seller for a property, both buyer and seller being ready, willing, and able to act, and both being fully informed, represents that property's what? The amount of money that would be paid by a buyer to a seller. Now, I just had this one with Paul, but buyer and seller are ready, willing, and able, and both being fully formed represents what? And he put market price, it's market value. And this, let me push, yes, it is market value. The reason why it's not market price is the amount that two people agree to pay for a property. Whereas market value is the price that two people being ready, willing, and able and informed might be willing to pay for the property. So the agent comes up with the market, their proposed market value. The real estate licensee comes up with their proposed market value through a competitive market analysis. Then a buyer comes along and makes an offer for more or less of the market value proposed by the licensee. And if everybody agrees, that becomes the market price. That's the settled upon price that two people are willing to buy and sell a property for. So, important distinction between market value and market price. All right. A homeowner is 4 months past due on their mortgage. What happens if they do not make a payment? Foreclosure, notice of default, short sale, or auction? Well, generally, a notice of default comes before all of these other things. Yes. So generally, you're going to get a notice that you're not paying, and then a foreclosure could be imminent. A short sale is a situation where you need to sell your property, but you can't get enough to cover your mortgage, so you're short. And an auction may be a route that the lending institution or bank takes after you have been foreclosed on. That may be one of the ways that they get rid of your property. All right. To be valid, an exclusive right to sell listing must have. Okay. To be valid, an exclusive right to sell listing must have a date, a liquidated damage clause, a ready, willing, and able buyer, a specific ending date. So this is a tricky one. So this is an exclusive right to sell listing. To be a valid listing, an exclusive right to sell listing must have. Now I'm assuming, again, this is where we get into these weird wordings here, right? We're talking about the listing or we're talking about the contract? Well, a listing contract doesn't have to have a ready, willing, and able buyer yet. That's the point of the listing. A liquidated damage clause is not required. Liquidated damages is if somebody gives earnest money. That's the liquidated damages. Usually a contract needs to have a date in which it was started or signed, but we're talking about a listing, not necessarily a listing contract. So, but everything must have an ending date. Well, a contract must have an ending date, must have specified expiration date. So the answer is going to be a date or specified ending date. And I got about a 50-50 on this one. I'm going to go with a specified ending date. I'm kind of shaky on this one. Yes, I did get that right. All right, good, good, good. A real estate listing, all real estate, see, this is where they don't tell you a listing contract. Now, an exclusive right to sell listing, when they say exclusive right to sell, that's telling you it's a contract, because if they said a listing, they could talk about the MLS listing. But the MLS listing is probably going to tell what type of contract it is. Real estate listing contracts must be written and include specific details in order to be legally enforceable. One of the most important elements of a valid listing contract is the inclusion of a specific ending date. This is because it ensures that the listing does not remain active beyond the agreed upon time frame and gives the seller and buyer a clear timeline for the transaction. Usually the ending date is between 3 and 6 months, depending on what's agreed upon by the listing agent and seller of the home. Okay, next question. I'm watching for our commercials here. Let me just take a little sippy sip. All right. If the foreclosure sale proceeds are less than the outstanding debt and foreclosure expenses, which of the following remedies is available to the mortgagee? Now, mortgagee is the mortgage company. So if the mortgage company gets more for your house through foreclosure, uh, um, if the foreclosure sale proceeds, they get more than what you owe them. What remedies are available to them? The mortgagee may obtain a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. This is if what they sell it for is less than what you owe, meaning there's still a balance. Okay, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Let me clarify that. That makes a huge difference in the answer. So you get foreclosed on, the mortgage company sells the property, you owe 150, but they only got 100 for the property, and you still technically owe 50,000. What can they do? The mortgage company may obtain a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor. The mortgagee may void the sale. The mortgagee must absorb the loss since the mortgagor is liable only for foreclosure expenses. The owner has the statutory right of redemption. Well, I believe the answer is the mortgagee or mortgage company may obtain a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor. Yes. Well, let's go back really quick. The mortgagee may obtain a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor when the proceeds from a foreclosure sale are less than the outstanding debt and foreclosure expenses. The mortgagee may seek a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor. A deficiency judgment is a judgment against the borrower for the balance of the debt owned after the foreclosure sale. Yeah. And that is correct because it provides the mortgagee with a legal remedy to recover the balance of the debt owed after the foreclosure sale. Okay. We've got about 2 minutes left till commercial time, so let's do the next one. Real estate is a term that refers to airspace above the Earth's surface and minerals below the surface. All of these, land in the physical sense and improvements thereto, rights to own land and improvements on it. I'm going to go with all of these, and the answer is correct. All right, we got 90 seconds here. A seller owned 26.25 acres of land. The seller sells 2.5 acres to one buyer and 11.75 to another. How much land does the seller have left? This is a fairly simple mathematical equation, isn't it? 26.25 minus 2.5 minus 11.75. We should have about 12 acres left. Good stuff. All right. We got about less than a minute here until our next commercial. Looks like our last question, too. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get it in. As an agent for the seller, a principal real estate broker is not authorized to. So take a think of that. We're going to be about 30 seconds till our ad starts here. I am not done. We've only done 35 questions. I'm going to do an additional 40 more. I said 75, but I'm breaking them up into a couple. I might do 50 more. That'll give us 85 questions total. That'll take us probably about another hour, give or take. Maybe a little less, maybe half an hour. How long have we been going here? We've been going for, oh, this one doesn't tell me. I'm using a different streaming program. The old one told me how long I've been streaming for, but this one doesn't seem to want to tell me. All right. All right. We are in commercial for those of us on Twitch. And Twitch gives me pennies for commercials. Let's see if we can figure out. All right. All right. Let's see. Does it tell me? Nope. That doesn't tell me either. That's okay. Oh, about an hour, it says. Good. About an hour. We've been going. I don't really need a break here, so I'm just going to wait until our break is over on Twitch. And if you're coming in, the way the breaks work is you have to be already watching. So if you're entering the stream or joining us in the middle of an ad break, you'll still hear me. So it's only if you were watching for a certain period of time would you be subject to the ad break. Should probably have some nice little graphic that says ad break. Our ad break's going to end in 90 seconds or less. So it's like I think it's like a 2 or 3 minute ad break on Twitch. Twitch is the only one that I'm affiliated with. So these ads do give me little pennies if anybody's watching. Is anybody watching? I don't know. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 users in Twitch chat. But let's see what up here it says. Twitch. Twitch doesn't tell me. So unfortunately, it really doesn't tell me how many people are watching. I could probably go to, well, we got 41 seconds left. Let's see if we can go over here and figure that out. Oop, boop, boop, boop. I'm at a people. 1, which is probably me. So yeah, nobody's watching on Twitch. It's all the bots. There's so many bots on Twitch. It's absolutely ridiculous. I have 14 bots watching me on Twitch, but no actual real people. And I've tried blocking all of those bots, which you can do, but I don't know what the purpose of the bots are. I have no idea. Seems silly though. I don't know if it's supposed to make you feel like you're getting people are watching you or not. All right, our ad break has ended. Welcome back if you're watching us on Twitch. As an agent for the seller, a principal real estate broker is not authorized to do what? Advertise the listed property, bind the client under a sales contract, cooperate with other brokers to effect a sale, place a for sale sign on the listed property. This one's rather easy. They're not allowed to bind you to a contract. They cannot make decisions for you or accept an offer for you. They have to present the offer and you have to accept it and sign. All right. We just finished. We got 29 out of 35 correct. I always like to go and see what that means as far as percentage wise. 83%, not half bad. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and start up our next session. We did 35 that time. I've got 300 left, so we're going to do 50 this time. So it's going to last us a little longer. That'll bring us down to 250. I'm trying to get through all these 300 questions at least once. I'm not going to get through 1,300 questions again, but I will have some that I want to go back and review. Any question that I marked in red means that I wasn't 100% on it, so I want to go back and review it. Even if I got it right, I just want to go and reinforce. So our next question is, who is legally responsible for any real estate contracts a licensee prepares? Is it the buyer the licensee represents, the licensee's broker, or the owner the licensee represents? Answer is the licensee's broker is responsible. They're the ones that's responsible for supervising. A licensee represents a broker. The broker's the one selling your house. Well, the licensee's selling your house, but the broker is the one you are contracting with. Even though you may never meet your real estate agent's broker, they're the ones that are putting their name and reputation on the line. Well, as much as your agent is. If a borrower obtained a $186,200 loan on a property valued at $196,000, what is the loan to value ratio? This is a simple one. 186.2 divided by 196 is a 95% LTV, loan to value. Yes. When should licensees disclose whom they represent to members of the public? When should licensees disclose whom they represent to members of the public? As soon as possible, at the time a contract is signed, within 24 hours, or within 3 days? As soon as possible. As soon as possible. So if you come to an open house and I'm there and I have a contract with the seller, I need to tell you that as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes the agent that's there isn't the actual agent for the property. Maybe they're doing it for another agent. That does happen. When does legal title to real property pass from the seller to the buyer? When does legal title to real property pass from the seller to the buyer? On the date of recording of the deed? When the closing statement has been signed? When the deed is delivered? When the deed is placed into escrow? On the date of the recording of the deed. This is one that I might get wrong here. When the closing statement has been signed, when the deed is delivered, when the deed is placed in an escrow. I'm going to say I'll say when the deed is delivered, but I'm feeling I'm going to get this one wrong. Oh, I did get it right. Cool, cool. Good deal. The last recourse for settling a disagreement between a broker and a salesperson over the content of an independent contract is. So the last recourse for settling a disagreement between a broker and a salesperson over the content of an independent contract is agreement between the broker and salesperson, arbitration by the board of realtors, arbitration by the real estate commission, to file an action in court. I'm going to go with file an action in court. Yeah. If I have a disagreement with my broker and we can't come to terms, I can sue him if I want to. A mortgage without a promissory note is not secured, secured, valid, but not secured, not valid. A mortgage without a promissory note is not valid. Promissory note is what actually is the legal document that says that I promise to pay. Demand is one of the elements that helps determine value. In order for demand to be effective, it must be implemented by amenities, highest and best use, location, or purchasing power. I'm a little shaky on this one, but I'm going to say no, it was purchasing power. Let's read this. I said highest and best use, but purchasing power was kind of the other one that I was leaning toward. In order for demand to be effective, it must be implemented by purchasing power. Purchasing power is the ability of a consumer to purchase a desired item. And unless those who want an item can afford to purchase it, their demand will not have any effect on the value of the item. It's funny because we're having a lot of talk in the public about home prices right now, and there's a certain portion of the public who feels as though real estate is too high. And the thing that I think of when I hear that is, well, if people weren't buying homes, it wouldn't be that high. Meaning, if people couldn't afford to buy the houses, the cost of the houses would come down. So it's not that there aren't people who can't afford to buy the homes. It's just a certain portion of people who want to buy homes can't afford to buy the homes. Now, if it gets to the point where there's so many people that can't afford to buy the homes, then eventually the price of homes will come down if people aren't buying the homes. But unfortunately for those who can't afford to buy the homes, there are enough people who can that the prices aren't coming down. Liquidated, now we can also get into investment companies and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to do that. Liquidated damages is most likely to be found in which of the following? Liquidated damages is most likely to be found in which of the following? Closing documents, employment contract, listing contract, purchase contract. Liquidated damages is that escrow money that people can optionally give on an offer. So that would most likely be under the purchase contract. A seller can be held liable for misrepresentation based on statements involving either facts or opinions, incorrect facts only, neither facts or opinions, or opinions only. I've had this one before and I don't remember either facts or opinions, I believe. No, it's incorrect facts only. Yeah, I'm not going to read it, but yeah. How long do you think this furnace will last? Well, I've only had it 5 years, so I think it should last 20 more. You know, that's an opinion, and based on that statement, it's not something somebody's going to come back and say. I mean, if it is a 5-year-old furnace and it only lasts another 5 years, an educated opinion is that's not long enough. Now, maybe you're not having it serviced, maybe it was defective. You know, a million things could shorten the life of the furnace, but a normal furnace should last 20, 30 years. Well, more than 10 anyhow. An appraiser who is using sales. All right, let me start over here. An appraiser who is using the sales comparison approach to appraise a single family residence should probably not use the sales price of which of the following similar homes. Okay. An appraiser who is using the sales comparison approach to appraise a single family residence should probably not use the sales price of which of the following similar homes? Same size but situated on a corner lot, sold in a foreclosure sale, sold over 6 months ago, sold recently but is located in another neighborhood. We want to avoid the foreclosure. Yes. Foreclosures are not going to be comparable prices, most likely. When a person dies intestate and no heirs can be found for intestate succession, the real property will revert to the government through a process known as eminent domain, escheat, reconveyance, or reversion. When a person dies and there's no heirs, there's no clear person to give it to, and there's no mortgage too. That's an important part of that. What is the government process? The government process is S or ES cheat. I say ES cheat. It might be. I've heard people say S cheat. Yes. The property manager working for the landlord must notify the potential tenant of environmental contamination, an opinion of the property, the landlord's minimum rate, the landlord's profit on the property. I would say environmental contamination is, yes, you got to know about environmental contamination. The Truth in Lending law requires lenders to inform borrowers about finance charges, minimum and maximum interest rates, mortgage interests, or usury rates. The Truth in Lending law requires lenders to inform borrowers about finance charges, minimum and maximum interest rates, mortgage instruments, or usury rates. I wish there was another one. Let's see. I might get this one wrong. Finance charges, min and max. I'm going to say finance charges. All the charges to finance. Yes. Finance charges kind of is an all-encompassing. Interest rates are part of finance charges. What are usury rates? I forget. The Truth in Lending Act only requires that lenders disclose all finance charges associated with a loan. These finance charges must be added together and calculated as a percentage of the loan. Doesn't remind me what usury. See, that's what I hate. It doesn't. Let's go over to ChatGPT. Well, let's go to Google. Just get the definition of usury rates. Doesn't tell you. Doesn't show you very good, does it? There we go. Okay, usury rates are the maximum rates a lender is allowed to charge. Now I remember as soon as I saw that. Okay. A parcel of land sells at market value. A parcel of land sells at market value. The market value and the tax value are the same. If the tax value is 100% of assessed value, the tax rate is $1.50 and the annual tax is $5.40. What is the selling price of the land? All right. Let's get our handy calculator out. We love the calculator. So a parcel of land sells at market value. The market value and the tax rate are the same. If tax value is 100% of assessed value, the tax rate is $1.50 and the annual tax is $5.40. What is the selling price of the land? Sugar. Now, one way we can kind of cheat is we can go. That's not it. Let's do 36 times 1.5. There it is right there. Is that right? 36,000 per thousand. So 36,000 divided by 1,000 is 36 times 1.5 is. No, I did that wrong. Let me start that over. 36,000 divided by 1,000, because it's per 1,000, is 36 times 1.5 is 54. Let me just do 81 times. I'm going to go with 36,000. Or is it per 100? Is it per 100 of the value? 36. Oh, wait. Divided by 100 times 1.5. It's 540. It's per 100. Yep. There we go. 1.5 times per 100 of the value. So I kind of cheated there. I just figured it out by the answers, which is not, it's like if you get the right answer, it's really all that matters. If a party to a valid real estate contract becomes bankrupt while the contract is executory, the contract is still enforceable, voidable, must be renegotiated, or terminates. Pretty sure it terminates. Yes, it does. All right. If title to real property is held by tenants in common, all tenants have an equal interest, an interest in the land, but no specific interest in any one part of the land, possession taken at the same time, possession taken by virtue of the same title, but possession not necessarily taken at the same time. I'm going to go with an equal interest, and I'm wrong. That is tenants in common, no. Joint tenancy. An interest in the land, but no specific interest in any one part of the land. No, tenants in common is right. Joint tenancy. I gotta remember that. Let's take a look. Always get the two mixed up, so let's go back. When title to real property is held in tenants in common, all interests have an undivided interest in the whole property, but just in parts of it. Not just parts of it. This means that all tenants have an interest in the land, but not necessarily a specific interest in any one part. This is correct because all tenants in common have an undivided interest in the entire property. This means that each tenant has the right to possess and use the entire property according to their proportionate share of the estate. However, none of the tenants have a specific interest in any one part of the land. All right. More. Here we go. The taxes are $964.50 paid in advance. The closing is November 3rd. Use actual days in the year, meaning 365. The seller is to pay for the date of closing. What is the debit and credit? Well, you're not going to get the debit and the credit. Well, it is the debit and the credit, but all right. So it's paid in advance. So we really only need to figure out by the number of days left. So 964.5 divided by 365 gives us a daily rate of, I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna clear this out too. So 964.5 divided by 365. All right, that's our daily rate. Now we need to figure out how many days. 31, so Nova plus the seller is to pay the date of closing. Okay, so there's 30 days, so 27 plus 31, 47, 57. Wait a minute. Let me get that right. 27 plus 31 is 58 days. So put that back up here. Times that by 58, 153.26. Yep. So it's the remaining days in the year times the daily rate of the taxes. That will be debited to the buyer and credited to the seller, because the seller has already paid the taxes for the entire year. Okay. The permissive use of a road across real property would cause a prescriptive easement in 10 years if the user pays the taxes, 20 years, 5 years, or none of these. The permissive use of a road across real property would cause a prescriptive easement in, it's 5 or 10 years, or it's going to be none of these because of a road. None of these. Okay. It's 10 years, I think, because the prescriptive easement requires that the user's use of the land is hostile without permission. If the use is permissive with permission, the user cannot acquire prescriptive easement. All right. So a prescriptive easement. When it comes to real estate, encumbrances can have a significant effect on property ownership. An easement is a non-possessory, meaning you don't possess it, right, that allows one party to use another party's land for a specific purpose. Easements can be acquired in various ways, including by prescription. A prescriptive easement is created when a person has been using another's land in a certain way for a certain length of time and meets certain legal requirements. And I'm pretty sure it's 10 years, but the reason it's not this is if the user pays the taxes, the user doesn't need to pay the taxes. Because a prescriptive easement requires that the user's use of the land is hostile. Even if the user pays the taxes, the user's use must still be hostile for the length of time required. Is it 15 years? Yeah, well, that wasn't one of the answers. It was 10 if the user pays the taxes, 25 or none. I guessed 5 and it was none. So 15 years. Okay. Paul says it's 15. Yeah, let's go back. Um, I think I've asked ChatGPT and it says, it depends. So yeah. So it's really almost not, it's not even worth me asking. It's probably state dependent. A homeowner can deduct which of the following home expenses from taxable income? A homeowner can deduct which of the following home expenses, from taxable income? Capital improvements, depreciation, mortgage interest, or property repairs? Mortgage interest. Yes, yes, yes. I haven't seen a commercial come up in a while. When making long-term amortized loans having a high loan-to-value ratio, lenders tend to protect their investment by emphasizing both the value of the collateral as a marketable asset and the borrower's potential for converting assets to cash, credit of the borrower, marital status of the borrower, selling price of the property. I'm going to say credit of the borrower, yes. Zoning ordinances are not used to determine location of buildings, size of structures, taxable value, uses of land. Taxable value. A competitive market analysis takes into consideration age of the sellers, neighborhood nuisances, square footage of the subject property, unemployment levels of the community. Subject square footage of the property. And again, if anybody's watching and you would like to answer or be given time to answer, please feel free to speak up in one of the 3 chats, and I will make sure that I give you adequate time to answer, but I do not. Oh, we have an ad starting in 3 minutes. Let's get a couple more in. A provision in an offer to purchase that requires the completion of a certain act before the contract is binding is known as contingency, covenant, lis pendens, restrictions. Remember what lis pendens means? I'm going to look that back up again, but I know that's not, it's a contingency, a provision in offer to purchase that requires the completion of a certain act before the contract is binding is known as a contingency. Let me go back to lis. I want to see what lis pendens is. Because a lis pendens is a notice that is filed with the court's clerks that their office that serves to inform the public that a specific piece of real estate is involved in a pending lawsuit. Okay. I read that every single time it comes up because I forget. Which type of title insurance policy insures against unrecorded easements, encroachments, and observable defects? Extended, mortgagee, owner, or purchaser? Unrecorded easement, encroachments, and observable defects. Ooh, what's your guess? Is extended? Yes. And extended is correct answer because extended title insurance policies provide protection against unrecorded encroachments, easements, and observable defects. An ALTA, ALTA extended coverage policy is usually required by lenders as it provides the most comprehensive coverage. The policy protects both the policyholder and the lender. Okay. Thank you, Paul. All concurrent tenancies have the unity of interest, possession, time, or title. Concurrent tenancies have the unity of possession. Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. If the amount realized at a foreclosure sale upon a delinquent mortgage exceeds the indebtedness, who gets the excess? The mortgagor? Yes. We're going to leave it there. We got 13 seconds to commercial. And we're going to leave it right there. If you're not on Twitch with me, you don't see the commercials, which means you get to just take a little pause. All right. We got to wait about 2.5 minutes until the commercial break is over. Gives me a moment to take a sip of coffee, take a talk break. We're about 55-60% into 50 questions, so I'm guessing we're got about 20 questions left, perhaps, which means we've done a total. We will have done, once we're done, a total of 85 questions. I said 75 plus. That'll get me down to 250 questions left of 1,300 that I started with about a week or so ago. Oh, and I'll be glad when all 1,300 questions are done. Then Monday I'll take my final practice little exam, and I'll have about another week and a half of practice to go through, or study to go through, until we take the test, the licensee test. So we're getting down to the wire. We've got about 1.25 minutes left until our ads are over on Twitch. We are streaming now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So we've got about just over a minute on Twitch. And we'll hopefully get through these next 20 or so questions before the next ad break. Right. The primary source of general revenues on which local governments operate are normally property taxes, right? Property taxes. Okay, we've got about 30 seconds left. I'd say if anybody had any questions, throw it in the chat, but I don't think anybody's interacting with chat. No comments yet from Facebook. No. All right, 13, 10, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Twitch. All right. The primary source of general revenues on which local governments operate are normally business taxes, income taxes, property taxes, or special assessment taxes. Again, if you're joining me, I'm just going to answer these questions. If you would like time to take a guess yourself, that is what I'm here for. But I do need to know that you are watching by putting something into chat like, hi, I'm here. And I will make sure that you are given time to answer and I will interact with you. Promise. Which is untrue concerning limited partnerships? Which is untrue concerning limited partnerships? A limited partner is liable for losses up to the amount invested. A limited partner may perform limited management functions. The limited partners share the profits and compensate the general partner for the efforts out of such profits. The limited partnership has one or more general partners and one or more limited partners. Paul, did we learn anything about limited partnerships in our study course?
Well,
I don't remember. Do you?
I know about them from other things, but
Well, I know you, but I'm saying, do you remember
which
those
one?
being in the course? I don't remember it
No,
being in the
I
course.
don't.
All right. Which is not true, untrue, concerning limited partnerships. A limited partner is liable for losses up to the amount invested. A limited partner may perform limited management functions. I think that's the one.
Well, they can do limited management,
Okay.
not
The
operational daily.
okay. The limited partners share the profits and compensate the general partner for the efforts out of such profits. I don't think that's true because everybody shares in the profits. They don't give. They don't. The limited partners don't pay the general partners. No. Okay. I think that's the one that's untrue. The limited partnership has one or more general partners and one or more limited partners. So we're going to go with the limited partners share the profits and compensate general partners for efforts out of such profits. What do we think? Is that it?
Give it a whirl.
Oh, a limited partner may perform limited management functions. That was my first answer. That is not true. That's what I thought from previous questions, but I wasn't sure. I don't think limited partners are really involved in the day-to-day operation. They're just financiers,
I mean, we call
which
them
actually makes this statement true.
the problem is we call them silent partners, probably.
Silent partners, yeah.
And then that's
No problem. All right. Under federal fair housing law, which of the answers shown may an owner of rental property do? Under federal fair housing law, which of the answers shown may an owner of rental property do? Advertise for adults only? Nope. Well, no, they can't. Allow, well, I mean, you have to be an adult to rent a property.
no, you can't advertise.
You can't advertise that, though, now. Adults only certainly has a certain connotation to it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Allow first come, first served parking for all. If more than 100 units separate adults and families into different buildings, um, maintain separate sections for children. This is what can they do? If can't do adults only, can't do separate sections for families with children. Separate adults and families into different buildings? No. Allow first come, first serve parking? Yes. No. The loan to value ratio on a mortgage is the loan as a percentage of the sales price or appraised value, whichever is lower. That's it right there. Monthly payments as a percentage of the remaining balance of the loan. Mortgage loan as a percentage of insured value, or none of these. I believe it to be the loan as a percentage of the sales price or appraised value, whichever is lower. Sound right to you? Sounds right to me and sounds right to them. When a purchase and sale contract has been signed by the buyer, and given to the seller's broker with an earnest money check when a purchase and sale contract has been signed by the buyer and given to the seller's broker with an earnest money check. The buyer can sue for specific performance if the seller refuses to sign the contract. The earnest money must be returned to the buyer if he or she withdraws the offer after the seller accepts the signed contract. The transaction constitutes a valid contract by law. The transaction is considered an offer until the seller accepts the contract and the acceptance is communicated to the buyer. Answer is D. Correctamundo. A construction or mechanics lien claim arises when a contractor has performed work or provided material to improve a parcel or real estate on the order of the owner and the work has not been paid for. Such contractor has a right to equitable title, have personal property of the owner sold to satisfy the lien, record a notice of lien and file a court suit within the time required by state law, or tear out the work. We're going to record a notice of lien and file a court suit within the time required by law. When a property is sold as is, the seller is responsible for disclosing to the buyer all known defects, any obvious defects, no defects since it's sold as is, only those defects disclosed by the seller. All known defects. As is does not mean you don't have to disclose. As is means you're not going to make any repairs. If a real estate professional prepares a sales contract using financing in which the stated sales price or down payment is higher than it really is, it is a good business practice, a violation of lending laws, creative financing, unethical but legal. If a real estate professional prepares a sales contract using financing in which the stated sales price or down payment is higher than it really is, wait a minute. If a real estate professional prepares a sales contract using financing in which the stated sales price or down payment is higher than it really is, that is a violation of lending laws. Yes. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a fee simple estate? It is of indefinite duration. It must be free of all encumbrances. It must be inheritable. It must be transferable. Fee simple. It must be free of all encumbrances. Yep. It has to be indefinite, it has to be inheritable, it has to be intransferable. Okay. A seller lists their home for sale with a broker. A seller lists their home for sale with a broker. After 3 days on the market, they receive 5 offers. What can the seller do? Accept the highest and best offer. Inform all potential buyers that there are other offers. Counter one offer and reject the others, all of the above. I feel pretty sure they can do all the above. Yes, they can. Get a nice little bidding war going. Who doesn't want that? The document used to change a contract that has already been signed by both parties. Oh, here we go. The document used to change a contract that has already been signed by both parties is called an addendum, an agreement, an amendment, or an attachment.
Document used to change. I'm gonna say addendum.
Let's do the addendum. It's the amendment! Damn it! Oh, we always get those two screwed up. And what? What?
I don't understand.
An amendment to a contract is different from an addendum in that an addendum is attached to a contract to provide additional information or clarity. An amendment changes the contract. We want to amend it. All right.
Amend is change, the addendum is what?
Clarification.
Are you sure? I thought it was the opposite.
No, it's not the opposite. An amendment to a contract is different from an addendum in that an amendment is attached to a contract to provide additional information, while an amendment is used to modify the terms of a contract that has already been agreed upon. Addendum is used to provide additional information such as definitions for legal terms or to provide additional instructions or instructions for one. So like if you have a signed contract and in the contract it says or it doesn't specify where the closing is going to be, you could do an addendum to specify who's doing the closing or where the closing is going to be. But if you're changing the amount or some stipulation of the contract, it has to be an amendment. Yeah, it's fine. I know. It's just those two words just want to stick to you. All right. Agency, which creates a legally binding relationship between the real estate agent and their client during the buying and selling process, is one of the most important aspects of the real estate profession. Because of agency, real estate agents act in the client's best interest. Which of the following could be considered ethical according to Article 6 of the Code of Conducts? Which of the following could be considered ethical according to the Article 16? Ethical. Aggressive and innovative business practices. Personally marketing properties with open listings held by another realtor? No. A general mailing specifically directed to property owners identified through current listings. Soliciting a listing that is currently exclusively listed with another broker? No. On an unlisted property, acting as a buyer's representative and not disclosing that relationship at first cut? No. Disclosing to a potential buyer that they are related to the seller, that they are related to the potential buyer, that they are related to the seller. What is considered ethical? A general mailing specifically directed to property owners identified through current listings. I'm going to go with aggressive and innovative business. No. Disclosing to a potential buyer that they are related to the seller. I guess that is right. I guess the word aggressive. Aggressive, though. Blah. All right. The seller failed to advise the buyer of a leaky roof. The buyer discovered it before the sale was closed. All of the following are true except the sale contract was voidable by the buyer. The seller was guilty of fraud. The seller was guilty of innocent misrepresentation. There was no meeting of the minds. I don't know. The seller failed to advise the buyer. Innocent misrepresentation. Yeah. It was fraud, not innocent misrepresentation. If you failed to advise the buyer of a leaky roof and you knew it was leaky, that's fraud. If, right? I know my roof is leaking and I try to sell a house and I don't tell them, that's fraud. Yeah. Which of the following is not a characteristic of value? Cost, scarcity, transferability, or utility? I had this one before. Characteristic of value: scarcity, transferability, utility. So it's cost? Yes, cost. A buyer is wanting to qualify for a USDA loan. In what area might they be able to buy? City, country, suburban, urban? Country? Huh?
This one's tricky. This one's funky.
What area might they be able to buy? Well, they might be able to buy in any of them. depending on what they're getting the loan for. The city, the country, the suburbs, or an urban environment. Well, city,
I don't think an urban environment is acceptable.
well, country, most likely. If it's a USDA, I'm thinking it's got to be country. Suburban. Why isn't country?
I had that one wrong.
Oh, country, not count. Wait.
I don't know.
Country is incorrect because USDA loans cannot be used to finance properties located in rural areas. Rural areas are typically defined as areas outside the urban and suburban areas.
Read the top one.
USDA loans are government backed loans that provide financing for properties in rural and suburban areas.
That's why I said that one's wrong.
This one is jacked up. Jank.
Yep.
They are intended to help low and middle income borrowers who otherwise would not be able to obtain a home loan. To qualify for a USDA loan, the property must be located in an area designated as rural or suburban. But then you go down here and it says USDA loans cannot be used to finance properties located in rural areas. Rural areas are typically defined as areas outside the urban and suburban areas with a population density of fewer than 2,500 per square mile. See, this is what I'm talking about with this jank ass testing site. They tell you they have contradictory information right there. And the sad part about it is if you go take the test, country might be right on the test.
No, that's
If suburban wasn't an option, country might have been right.
see. I think it. I know.
I tell you, I don't trust these people any farther than I can throw them, and I got a bad back. All right. A mortgage broker acts as an intermediary, is not required to be licensed, uses his or her firm's money for loans, usually services the loans he or she mistakes. A mortgage broker is an intermediary. A broker is entitled to a commission regardless of who sells the property during the listing period if the broker has which of the following listings: exclusive agency, exclusive right to sell, net, or open. We're going to go with right to sell, baby. We want those right to sells. Which of the following ads is in compliance with the advertising laws? Which of the following ads is in compliance with advertising laws? Spacious four-bedroom home with a large backyard. Call ABC Realty at for more information. Just listed 425 Elm Street, priced at 100,000. Share this post and send a direct. That does not conform. Ideal home for a growing family, close to schools and amenities. Contact Sandy. Nope. Cozy, not crazy. Cozy home for downsizing or as a bachelor pad. Call Sandy. Schedule. We're going to go with this one. Yes, got to have the name and the phone number of the brokerage. While showing a property or address, while showing a property to a buyer, the salesperson stated that the property had the most attractive landscaping of any property in the country. This statement constituted fraud, misrepresentation, puffing, or unintentional misrepresentation. We're going to say puffing. Yes. Can't puff that property, baby. A seller offers to pay the listing salesperson a bonus if the salesperson gets an accepted offer within the first 30 days. If the salesperson earns the bonus, who will pay it? A seller offers to pay the listing salesperson a bonus if the salesperson gets an accepted offer within the first 30 days. If the salesperson earns the bonus, who will pay it? The broker after closing, the seller at closing, the seller if it's less than 100, the seller once it is earned. The broker after closing. Coercion and duress of a buyer would make a contract invalid, voidable at the option of either the buyer or the seller, voidable at the option of the buyer, voidable at the option of the seller. Well, it's either voidable at the option of the buyer or invalid. I want to go with invalid. No, voidable at the option of the buyer. All right, fine, I'll accept that answer. When terms in a pre-printed sales contract are crossed out, what?
I got this one wrong.
You got that one wrong too? Or this one?
The one coming up.
When items in a pre-printed sales contract are crossed out, it is necessary to have a notary public sign the change, have all parties initial the changes and include the date and time, have at least one party initial it, have the change made by a lawyer. Okay, it's not A or D. My inclination is have all parties initial the changes and include the date and time, but it could be have at least one party initial it. Because
Oh no, maybe it's a different question. I would pick B, but
I'm going to go with B. Yeah, I mean, that's going to CYA the best out of all of them. When a lease is signed, it is illegal for the lease to contain an option to renew. No, because an option is legal only if it is an option to buy. No, because leases must be negotiated at expiration. It is illegal. I'm sorry, it is legal for the lease. Yes, but only if the option to renew also provides an option to buy. Yes, if the duration of the option is specified in the original lease agreement. I'm going to say that one. Yeah. All right, this might be our last question. Which principle of value describes the value produced by adding an improvement or upgrades to a property? The principle or the highest and best use, principle of anticipation, principle of contribution, principle of substitution. Contribution is by other, so that would be, I think, substitution. Which principle of value describes the value produced by adding an improvement or upgrades to a property? Isn't that the principle of substitution?
contribution.
No, contribution.
How does it contribute? How does it contribute to the property?
I thought contribution was something that's done externally, like your property goes up in value, so that makes my property go up
No,
in value.
that's not contribution.
Well, what's substitution?
Substitution is
Principle. What's the principle of substitution?
substitution. I don't know,
You don't know.
but I would
I,
say
I
it's contribution.
you're right. Contribution.
Look down, go down, and see what.
Substitution because it does not take into account the effect of improvements or upgrades to a property. What does it say what principal substitution is? Principal contribution is correct because it determines the value of an improvement or upgrade based on what the market will pay for it, not the cost of the improvement or upgrade. The principle states that improvement or upgrade must add value in excess of its cost in order to be considered an asset. Let me look up principal substitution really quick because I feel like I should know what that is. Principal substitution states that the upper limit of value tends to be set by the cost of acquiring an equally desirable substitute, assuming no untimely delays. A prudent investor would pay no more for an income-producing property than it would cost to build or purchase a similar property. In other words, you're not going to pay more for something than you could just to build a brand new one. All right, fine. Sounds good to me. Let's see what we got here. Let's see how many we got right. We did 50. We got 41 right. That is a 82%. So we're consistently getting between 80 and 86. That is good. That is good. I'd like to see myself getting closer to 90. 548% accuracy. How can somebody be 548% accurate? That is dumb. I tell you, this. I digress. All right, we got 252 questions. How do I have 252 questions available? All right, we got to do two more here just to get this right. How did I get 252 questions available? I had 335, I did 35, and then I did 50. All right. A salesperson for ABC Realty has moved to XYZ. What happens to the listing the salesperson took? It has to be the listing transfers. Belongs to ABC, I think. Yeah, it belongs to ABC, which is not a benefit of e-signatures. Trusted, enforceable, efficiency and timely, cost effective, meets all legal standards. Efficient and timely, cost effective, meets all legal standards. Why doesn't it meet all legal standards? Electronic signatures are legally binding and enforceable. It's what it says, which is not a benefit.
It's not a benefit. Why would it be cost effective?
Well, that's not a benefit either. What does cost have to do with signature? So so e-signatures are well, they're cost effective because you don't have to print out paper and you don't have to spend money to move the paper around. But electronic signatures are legally binding and enforceable in many jurisdictions and can be used to sign contracts, agreements, and other documents quickly and securely. An electronic signature is considered to be a legally binding agreement when the person signing the document is aware of the implications of doing so. Meet all legal standards is correct because electronic signatures must meet all applicable legal standards in order for them to be acceptable as legally binding. Electronic signatures must be secure and verifiable in order to be accepted. In addition, any electronic signatures must be traceable to the signer and must be stored securely. That did not answer the question. That's saying that meets all legal standards is not a benefit to e-signatures. I tell you, these people are jank. 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 I keep getting this email asking me to give them a score. They don't want my score, man. They do not want my score. All right, I'm down to 250 questions not answered. Woo-wee. I have answered 384. There, let's pull up our little calculator here. How many questions have I answered so far? 130, 384, 354, 868 plus the 250. Whoa, 868 plus 250 is 1118 questions. I tell you. Charge a lot of money to be so inaccurate. All right. Well, if you've if you've watched, I hope you've had fun answering these questions with me. Again, as it states in the details of the video, I am not a licensee. I'm simply studying for my exam coming up in 13 days. 13 days right there until exam. So been practicing. 1,107 items answered. 548% accuracy. That's odd. Anyway, out of 1,107 perhaps. All right, we got an ad break. Well, no, ad's over. Coming up here in Twitch, so some people might not have heard all of the last questions, but that's okay. Thank you for anybody who's tuned in, live or otherwise. Hope this has helped a little bit. I'm not a professional question giver. I've seen better people out there than me, but I hope you've had fun. I've got about 250 questions left, plus some I'm going to go over again. These red ones here, I've got about 130 that I need to go over again that I wasn't 100% with when I answered them. So keep coming on back. There'll be some more questions for you, and I appreciate you watching.